So we will now start the 3 presentations on technical assistance by myself, by Petros from DAFNI, and then by Cécile and Mario. You can already come here. I think we need the clicker. It's here, the clicker. Yeah, it is here. And so I see the first presentation that is ready here is by Petros, so you can start. And so what we are conveying to you is before we announce the next round of technical assistance, as the commissioner has done, and all the, what is in there for the islands and so forth, we want to show what we have done so far and what experience we can learn from that and how this can actually work. So, Petros, you have the floor.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Jan. I represent DAFNI, which is a network of sustainable Greek islands, network of 52 island municipalities and 4 regional authorities, providing technical support in the fields of clean energy, water waste management, sustainable tourism, and mobility. In the one on the other way, we've been pursuing the decarbonization of islands since a long time. We've been a founding member of the Pact of Islands, subcontractor to the Covenant of Mayors, coordinator of the Smart Islands Initiative, subcontractor and co-beneficiary of the Clean Energy for EU Islands first 2 terms. Lately, beneficiary and also external advisor in many NESOI projects. And finally, a partner and lead partner of the 3rd term of the secretariat. So it's been a long story, a long way in this procedure, and we're very happy to now be part of this team and promote the efforts of the secretariat. What I will present here is our experience from both the NESOI and the Clean Energy for EU Islands technical assistance, and the things that we think we can do to improve the services provided to islands, and also to really to turn these assistance into real projects happening in the islands and becoming reality. So we managed to have 13 projects supported by DAFNI in many different islands. We have a lot of different issues that were tackled. We have SETAs that were developed in 4 islands. We have biogas projects, battery projects, and hybrid stations, meaning combination of RES together with battery, ferry electrification, repowering of wind turbines, smart marinas, and even a hydrogen project in Kos. So there was quite a range of projects supported by NESOI, and very useful documents produced. In the same manner, we managed to secure technical assistance for many of our members, the local authorities that we support, including port infrastructure upgrade, transport, especially it was focused on maritime transport, electrification in North Dodecanese archipelago, clean energy transition agendas for Andros and Castellorzo, smart electromobility in Syros, and also a virtual microgrid in the North Sporades archipelago. Going now to the lessons learned from the technical assistance, I would like to highlight some points. First of all, there is great difficulty for local authorities to request support. We see that a lot. If it had not been for agencies, for NGOs and for other entities to support the local authorities in this procedure, this project would not happen. It's very difficult for the technical personnel of the municipalities to understand this whole ecosystem of support coming from the EU. And it's not just the Clean Energy Secretariat or the NESOI. There are a lot of other also schemes like the Energy Poverty Hub, the Energy Communities Hub, and people in the municipalities do not know about these initiatives. We have to provide them the way to understand what's going on and what comes as an opportunity for them. Second, when you start building the project, there is a huge lack of data or access to data. Huge lack of data when it comes to the local authorities themselves. The lack of access when it comes to the electricity operators and so on, the network operators. So there's a huge need to include all relevant stakeholders from the beginning in order to have access and to start building the project on a real basis and not just starting from many different hypotheses that in the end and assumptions that it's difficult to validate. There's a difficult when coming to technical assistance from European organizations to this specific local context. There's limited knowledge about the national regulation and financing tools that are on national level. Because this is where we finally need to have good knowledge to promote the project. It's not enough just to have a literature review of the European regulation, best practices from other countries and so on. When we want to realize a project, we need to have a good understanding of the details of how projects are realized in each country. And that is a very good point for the technical assistance from the Secretariat that has included all these regional partners that have good understanding of the local conditions. Local authorities are mostly interested in mature projects. They need to showcase that out of this funding that they get, something concrete comes out of it. And even if we're talking about projects that need, of course, a lot of time to be implemented, designed and implemented and also licensed, we need to secure short-term added value for the beneficiaries. I have to tell you that in our case, in all our projects, we have been conducting in parallel short-term technical studies in the national language Greek, besides the official NESOI, for example, or technical assistance, clean energy technical assistance deliverables, so that the municipalities in the end get something concrete in their hands and they understand that they can use it for something that will provide them added value. Because it's not always easy for them and they don't see the added value of a huge deliverable in English with many technical details and specifications. And we need to have them engaged and willing to cooperate and put this administrative effort in the procedure. Then we have a lot of innovation projects, which is good. We also promoted a lot of them. But what we saw is that sometimes we go for the technical side, which are usually more fascinating for us, but we should focus on the legislative and regulatory barriers early on. There's no really reason to go so deep in technical studies when a project cannot be realized or could be realized after 10 or 20 years. Of course, I don't underestimate all the effort and all the technical and scientific work that has to be done. That's what we do as well. But if we don't also focus on the regulatory side, then that's not really going to happen. And I think that right now, if we combine both the great experience from all these NESOI projects and the technical assistance from the Secretariat, we gather a basket of too many island projects, in fact, right now. And we don't need to look in general for regulatory adaptations and recommendations. We have projects that are now stuck, in fact, although they have already a very good background and a very good basis to start on, and we can use this regulatory restrictions that we have already identified and go and ask and apply pressure on the national level, where this is where finally the decisions affect the realization of projects for certain modifications. Finally, regarding the SETA development, which is a tool that has been really useful for us, and it has been adopted by the secretariat, and really is very useful to approach the local community using the SETA as a starting point. We think that first of all it should be linked with other strategic documents, and from our experience, because it was many times it was difficult to approach the local communities, it was not easy to get in touch with them, especially in islands. Island communities are either way hard to reach when talking about energy planning, but even if you go there, it's not easy that people are convinced to leave their agricultural works, their touristic work, and come to an open discussion that is not always focused on something specific. So we even had to, organize visits at home, providing technical support for energy saving and so on. We tried all ways of talking to people, and this is where we finally come to projects that are more related to the demand side, like heating, cooling, and this is where we get to this part, because I think it's easy just to have general ideas like hydrogen ferries, wind turbines, batteries. You can see that in every SETA that has been produced, but there is less effort on the demand side and less concrete solutions finally that are tailored to each island. So that's all from our side. It's been really useful all these 2 last years with all this technical support, working together both with NESOI and the secretariat. It had been really great collaboration, but what we're looking forward now is to turn all this effort into concrete bankable projects for the local communities. Thank you.
No, I have a mic. Thanks. And I think it's mine now. Yes. Good. I'll try to be very short because in the interest of time, but also because these presentations are coming back to the same theme. And so if I look at the techno-economic support that we've given to 40 islands, of which some have been presented by Petros, we have done 40. And so here you see all the islands that in the last phase have received support. And the main point I want to stress here is that there's a wealth of information out there. All these studies, all these reports, all these exercises we've done, they are actually useful for the islands we've worked for, but they can also be useful for other islands, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel each time. We have now a lot of templates to work with and pull them together into a strategy for a 100% renewable energy island. And the CETAs have been mentioned. We work with this methodology, Explore, Shape, Act. We start with focus on engagement, bringing the stakeholders together around a common vision, a common strategy, an agreement, a document. And CETAs are indeed a useful tool, and our handbook, explains in much detail how it can be done. And it's important to have that. But we also look at the shape phase, where we say, well, we want to shape projects. We want to start connecting the stakeholders around a particular question, and this links to the financing. These studies that were mentioned that are needed to secure the financing. We've done a lot of these pre-feasibility studies with a lot of technical detail, which is useful to show like these projects can be done. It's not because they can be done that they are done, but they can be done. They make sense. It's an important conclusion that you can draw from those. And then lastly, the ACT phase, where we focus on attracting funding, and then it's really getting into all that is needed to secure, indeed, help local authorities or other beneficiaries to get the funding applications, to assist with finding the finance that is out there. And that's, the experience with that in the last phase will help us into the next. And now I'm going to go into 3 specific cases, and it might look a bit technical, and that's on purpose, because I want to show that behind these ideas, and some of the islands have been mentioned here, there's really technical work that is useful to inform the range of possibilities that these islands have, and also perhaps the choice of what is useful and what is not. So, first island I want to talk about is Chios. We worked on renewable desalination. We did a wind and solar pre-feasibility study with a view to powering a desalination plant. We did that with an academic partner also, Dimitris Xefgenos, I'm not sure I pronounced it correctly, who's recently has presented this strategy and this technique in Cyprus in a big conference. Very interesting work, because here's a template. I mean, we'll have a water crisis. We already have it in some places. We have a need to use our solar and wind resources into something that basically that can act as a storage, and desalination is actually part of it. Water is a good way to store it. So what did we do? Well, we looked at the solar and the wind, and you see some of the visuals, and we showed that hybrid complex solutions are possible, and that if you creatively connect these technical material, you can take into account the nature, the heritage, the local economic activities, the availability of resources, and come to what is actually the best balance of all of that together. What is very important also from this project is that the close contact and collaboration with the local actors. And in the next phase that will be presented, we attach great value to having a local team. Because when we will work 3 years on a strategy, we need a team that can walk the way with us for 3 years. And that's important here. We have experience on how that can be done, how it can be organized. And lastly, it was a collaboration between the secretariat, but also academia, local government, businesses. So it's bringing all the stakeholders together. So interesting project. The second, Halki, was very interesting as well. It was about finding the optimal island energy system for an island that has 500 inhabitants more or less. So energy needs not great. And we looked at everything. We looked at offshore wind, we looked at onshore wind, we looked at batteries, we looked at PV, we looked at solar thermal, we looked at cooling. So really, we looked at all the technologies, and I think Halki is probably now the best equipped island. They know everything they need to know about how to produce renewable electricity. But then we looked at use cases as well. What are you going to do with it? Because 500 people is actually not a lot. So we looked at, can we electrify ferries? And indeed, we showed it is feasible. Can we do offshore wind? Yes, you can, but actually one turbine exceeds the need of the island. So it's for export. When you can do offshore wind around Halki, but it's actually for the other islands. It's for Rhodos and so forth, because for Halki, it doesn't actually make sense. You don't need so much electricity. We looked at hybrid battery solutions, which I think going forward, solar PV and batteries is really the island combination, which I think can win a lot of share of renewable electricity. And lastly, and that's also why it's interesting, Halki has now received 3 times technical assistance, and in every phase we worked together. We did the CETA, we worked on the solar and all the technologies and so forth. So everything's there. Now the question is, where do we want to go? Where do they want to go? And can we pull this together in a perhaps more ambitious plan, drawing in some of the other islands and say, like, look, let's look at this together. Perhaps little Halki can say, well, let's power Rhodos. And let's make a plan for that. The ambition level should perhaps be 100% renewable Rhodos, and Halki will make it happen. I'm just dreaming here. But look at how technical this becomes, and I'm not going to explain every one of them. But we calculated the energy baseline of the ferries. How much do they consume now if you electrify it? What is the impact on the amount of energy, the CO2, and so forth? We plotted the combination, the demand of the electrical load in a base case and a case with ferries. And so we looked at, can this actually happen? When is this electricity loading happening on the ferries, and does it fit into the pattern? We looked at offshore wind locations and determined where would be ideal if they want to do offshore wind for export, where should they do it? And then we also looked at what makes a good business model, because here you have the cost of the electricity they pay, and there you have the cost of electricity they can sell to. And so there's a balance there. And you see, the wind, it's only for sale, because they can't use it. So you need a certain price before you do that. And then the battery is actually getting very interesting if the electricity price is high on the island. And so we've plotted these possibilities in a technical way, and that can now inform the choices of the island of where to go for. They can become an energy exporter if they want to, but then, we need to set the steps. And then the last case I want to show, and we've already discussed it here, the island of Rausa, this electrifying the fishing fleet. And I love this project. I find it really very nice project because it's an economic activity. Fishermen, it's their livelihood. It's it's their job. It's their income. The village, the island depends on it. So you can't mess with that. You have to get this right if you want to electrify that. And so we looked really at how can this be done, and looking at all the island-specific parameters and making a realistic case that is. Can mean business for those, and that was interesting. The second thing that was interesting here was the interplay between consumption and production. That squaring, these flexibilities that are needed and so forth. Very interesting. And lastly, it was a good collaboration because it was a NESOI project. It was also an island secretariat project. So you see that we're feeding into the same assistance to the same islands and build on each other's work. And I think that's also a shape of things to come, building on each other's work. And again, just showing some technicality because it's all there. You can actually look into this and see how can this be done for my island. And we have on the top the electricity bought and sold in two different scenarios, one with a smaller charger battery and one with a bigger one. And you see that the bigger battery could actually mean that they don't need to buy so much electricity anymore. They can produce, save, and push it into the boats in the morning before they go out. And when they go back, charge them. And then when they go out again for the afternoon fishing session, they are fully charged. And then, so this actually works. And that's also where we looked at, again, this combination of when does the battery make sense, when does the wind make sense, and how is this pricing going. So just to show you the kind of very detailed information that is there and that is there to use. And in the reports on the website, if you go to these islands, it's mentioned which technical assistance they got, and the reports are there. Sometimes a summary, but you can ask for more. Sometimes the full report. Sometimes it's in the local language, but then there can be an official translation. Just to, I'll leave it there. Use this information. Also, if you're thinking of applying next, use this information so we don't do all these studies again. We want to, move to the next level from the pre-feasibility studies to making projects happen in the next phase. Thank you very much. Yeah. Please.
It's working. It's working. Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Cécile Barrere and my colleague Mario Cortese from R2M Solution. We are representing the NESOI consortium. And today we would like to share, we have 4 or 5 slides to present to you proposition post-technical assistance activities that we conducted. We started the NESOI project at the end of 2009, and we will have a little extension, bringing the end of the project to February 2024. So it's a 4.5 year project. So I have the control, so I have to take care of this. This. As a middle. It's a big one. Yeah, so I quite like this map. It's very impactful, I think, to see the coverage of the NESOI. So just additional figures to this 54 supported project. We receive 178 applications through 2 calls. And so we selected 54. We have this coverage that is in the Mediterranean Sea and in the north, And it's nice to always like try to balance the activity for south and north, because we are a bit like drag south. It's true. So we have two like main big chunk of activity, I would say, in NESOI. We have a first part that is the technical assistance, and we have a second part that is a bit maybe specific to NESOI, and it's what we name the coaching activities. And it's like activities that arrive for the people, the beneficiaries of NESOI, after the technical assistance. And this activity aim at like consolidating the capacity building that they have been experiencing through the technical assistance. So I think it's good to like kind of check how much they have like learned during the technical assistance, and if they are able to replicate what they have learned during the technical assistance. So we do it through these coaching activities. So when preparing the session, Jan, you ask you for as a guideline, you express two questions. So I will answer the first question, and Mario will answer the second one. So the first question was, what can we learn from NESOI technical assistance and capacity building activities? So I kind of summarize the answer in three main points. So the first point is that we see that it's working. The projects are working and developed very like efficiently when there is a strong local involvement and social acceptance, of course. And I'm particularly like pointing at two great examples that we have seen in Astipalia and Ila Arousa, with a little bit like difference, because in Astipalia it's a lot like carried by the municipality, where in Arousa Island, the project promoter is not the municipality itself, it's a kind of association led by people that are resident or living close by. And it has a certain importance when we start to like think about continuity of the work. So the work cannot be like disturbed too much. It's better if the work is not disturbed too much by renewal of the municipality people. So I think the island of Arousa is doing really good in this. But in both cases, social acceptance is a long way, and it's a lot of activity close to the people, trying to explain to everyone what are the benefits of developing projects. So I will go like vertically. Our recommendation is to try to support the locals with the creation of the space. Policy should like create space, secure space for the people to develop their project, because they cannot be developed. It's like there is no the right regulation or possibility to develop it. And if it's changing too much, it's not as well working. So they need stability, and they need funding solutions. So clear funding solution adapted to their needs. So I will move to the second point, because we have 10 minutes. So lack of project development skills. So we evoke this a lot. So all our work plans have legal support and technico-economic support. So cash flow modelization, for instance. And we see very like motivated people lacking skills. So we kind of recommend to have this like almost like fixed group, like we imagine a kind of transition office with people that would be there and motivated, and that would like upgrade skills years after years to be able at a certain point to run the next project on their own. And third point, the Icelanders inspire each other, and it's really nice to see that they are really like keen on like learning from others. And they are as well. There is an appetite to share their own experience when it was a good experience, and they always they as well want to share errors that they made. So it's quite an honest like exchange. And related to this, so to build these coaching activities, we add interviews after the technical assistance, and we identify the needs in terms of like support. And so we propose certain activity, which are like the collective webinar, where we kind of organize webinars to share best practices. And we started to like think about organizing another type of coaching activities that we name short study tours. So I will explain a little bit more what is a short study tour. I will jump over this one. Yeah. So the short study tour, quickly, it was like the idea. So it was not in the proposal initially, but it was like more a one-to-one exchange, an Erasmus kind of exchange between engineers, very technical. And because of COVID, it was not possible to do this. So we had to rethink after COVID, when we had this budget, rethink how to like do it efficiently with the time that we had and the money that we had. So we proposed to organize 3 trips. So we organized 3 trips. Here you see the little, the first page of the brochure that we developed. One in Cornillie, one in Sicily, and one in Astipalia. And so we brought here 10 people, about 10 people. We were hosted locally by experts that could like organize, support us to organize a program focusing on different specific topic, energy community, hydrogen, green hydrogen, decarbonization of ports, stuff like this. So it's not that expensive. I had this discussion with Jan because at the end, I think it's important to realize how like efficient and not so expensive it is. All together, to give you an idea, it was like less than 15,000 euros per trip. So it's quite a small money, kind of, for at the scale of the project. And we distributed this way. We had like 3,000 offered, kind of, to the host, to support transportation to site visits, food, social dinners and stuff like this. And we offered grants, so we had to go through a call to select our participants. So each participant who succeed. So we had like 45 applications, and we could fund 25 people. They receive 800 to 1,000 euros to pay for their ticket, basically, and for accommodation. So per trip, it's about like 15,000, so not so much. And so this slide is particularly on one moment of grace, I would say, that I owe to DAFNI. So thank you very much for organizing this. It was in Astipalia, and it was a public consultation. So Maltesana, it's a settlement, I would say, like really like a small village outside of the main city of Astipalia. And so in this public consultation, you can recognize several people that are in the room. Pablo from Arousa, Hugo from Cress, and so there was, the public consultation was about creation of energy community. And we invited Pablo, Hugo, and Dimitris from Crete to like just explain their own experience. And so they did it in English, and they were translated because people attending this public consultation were speaking Greek. And it was, I think, really, really nice and really intense and really efficient to see that normal people that look like you, kind of, are doing this for real in their country. So I really recommend to organize this type of trips. And now we have really like basic communication tool, like a WhatsApp group, where we have an exchange about how to collaborate. There we are discussing collaboration on next calls and stuff like this, so it's quite concrete. So I will just give you the floor, Mario.
Okay, thank you. Does it work? Yeah, thank you. I continue with the NESOI experience, and the other question that is critical and I think one of the most important way to make our assistance, intervention, support to all these islands. NESOI, for example, as Cécile mentioned, had the opportunity to support 54 projects on European islands. And now it becomes critical the issue to make all this information, as Jean said, available, systematized in a practically useful way for all different stakeholders we have on islands. And I also add the necessity to create a kind of critical mass collaboration with the different EU initiatives that are working to support islanders. So the secretariat, of course, our project that is going to be extended, but we have some months ahead, and then in this last month will be for us crucial to to increase, strengthen the collaboration with all the other stakeholders working in this. So, and the secretariat is for sure something we need to use to capitalize our experience. It was quite impactful. I repeat, we allocated 3.1 million to 54 projects, and with a quite huge impact, I have to say. So, in terms of how can islands use the wealth of information that NESOI facility had the opportunity to create in this 4.5 years of project implementation. We are being to launch, and we'll also at the end spend a few words about the NESOI digital platform. This is a platform which has clearly the objective to continue to support the path towards the energy transition of EU islands, or European islands. And I would also add another topic that is about the remote areas within the European Union that have sometimes a lot of similar characteristics to the islands, to the island context. The platform is now totally in line with what is NESOI philosophy, NESOI scope, that is to create the conditions to make these investments, these energy transition projects executable in the most practical connotation we should give to the executability of projects, because we are dealing most of the times with small and medium scale interventions. And what we did that through the definition of the technical feasibility, financial viability of these interventions. We worked hard to do that in combination between funds that we made available to these islanders and also the direct technical assistance was the peculiarity of NESOI provided directly by us, by the NESOI consortium. It is a multidisciplinary group organizations based all over Europe and representing geographically the areas where most of the islands are located. Okay, so now, of course, NESOI is in the very critical phase of defining what to do after the support of the Horizon 2020 framework program. And the platform will be for sure the instrument, the tool that we will focus on and invest on our last project months to make everything available we generated during the project. So reports, knowledge in terms of technical and technology aspects, regulatory and legal issues and aspects that had to be taken into account in the support of our 54 projects that were encompassing practically all main energy transition interventions that on islands can be made. So, in the framework of this platform, we include our replication and, for who has familiarity with the EU projects, exploitation strategy. What do I mean? Replication is quite different from the exploitation strategy because our main aim is now to stimulate, to encourage the replication of the projects we supported in other contexts in the islands that were not touched by NESOI support, by the secretariat support, and so on. And we are going also to launch in the next 2 months the so-called guidebook for replication. What is the guidebook for replication? It's a very practical tool. We believe a lot in that because it has the characteristics to define the conditions under which these projects can be replicated in other contexts. We created a so-called RRL, replicability readiness lever, and it is taken from the well-known technology readiness level. But the replicability readiness level takes into account some kinds of indicators that are geographical, environmental, social, cultural, economic, legal, and regulatory. And all these aspects in our projects were assessed in order to identify common distinctive features of some of our projects, best practices, let's say, and lesson learned, to define those projects that have the higher level of RRL, replicability readiness level. And that will be a very useful tool for islands willing to start the path that our islands started, and some islands concluded with us with the launch of their investment projects. Yes, thanks. No, I still need this one. Actually, I'm not even following because I cannot read the monitor.
Two more minutes.
Yeah, minutes, you mean?
Minutes.
Okay, I do my best.
Almost 12.
And so, regarding the exploitation, this platform will be really important. Now, at the end, I will give you a few tips and recommendations to start using the platform, and also will ask the collaboration of the secretariat. The platform is basically a matchmaking instrument that, of course, it will be used initially to share everything we generated during the project to support the island. And of course, we know also that this information cannot be rigid, and we need to commit to keep updated those information for our islanders. We give yes, if you can switch the slide. Thank you. The last one, yeah, because this tool available. Basically, it's targeting who needs and who offers support, provides technical assistance, technological solutions, and financing solutions by making use of a nice, smart matchmaking functionality. And we also added a crowdfunding component. Is something that we really believe a lot in this financial instrument that we think is going to democratize access to funds, especially for small-scale interventions. So we activated 3 collaborations now with 3 different crowdfunding platforms, and our aim is to increase them at least to cover all NESOI countries. Because there are some restrictions in terms of regulations for the crowdfunding, because some of the countries and projects need to ask for these kinds of services to crowdfunding platforms based in their countries, while in other countries there's much more flexibility. Now we are working with France, Italy, and Spain. And there is the possibility to look for funds and look for the crowdfunding platforms that are, of course, targeting energy transition, sustainability projects, but also the projects and crowdfunding campaigns that are being activated through our platform will be displayed, promoted here in order to speed up the collection of funds. Anyway, the platform is launched, so I invite you all to connect to nesoi.eu, create your profile, start your matchmaking, and also ask for our support. Information will be ready to assist you in these first preliminary stages of operations of our platform. Thank you.